Will the global minimum tax affect your company? That's going to be the topic of today's video. So if you're an expat or a high net wealth individual, go over to infuriated.com and see how I can help you. Now on today's video, I'm going to talk about the global minimum corporate tax. I've talked about it a bit before, but on this video, I'm going to talk about will it affect your company if you're offshore or indeed even if you're back home. Now, the global minimum corporate tax, basically, the biggest countries in the world by GDP want to ensure that corporations pay at least 15% tax. However, right now, it's only going to affect the 100 most profitable firms in the world. And by the way, Amazon might not actually pay this particular minimum tax because actually they make very little money on each particular product. They make a lot of money overall, but they reinvest money that they make from business. So it might not actually affect Amazon. So the simple answer is 99.99999% of people watching this video will not be affected on day one if this comes in. And number two, it might not actually come in because a lot of countries are going to actually have to agree to this. However, what I do see happening is more countries going in the United States direction. So the United States taxes their companies and indeed individuals who go around the world. So if you're an American expat or an American company, you can be taxed on your worldwide income, regardless of how many days you spend in the country. And I see more countries will go in this direction, that more countries might tax their expats. More countries might say, well, we're going to tax you more if you move to this jurisdiction as a company, or we're going to go down the digital taxes route. In other words, you know, if you're selling in the UAE or Qatar or another low tax jurisdiction, and you're using Google ads or whatever, we're going to add an extra tax. It's going to be hard to enforce, but what I do think is sooner or later, this is going to start to affect all companies. Not for a few years maybe, but I would plan for it. I would keep up to date about it, especially if you're in a place like the UAE or a low tax jurisdiction. I would carefully consider how this could impact your business if it happens, because a lot of people think, oh, it'll never happen or it'll never work, but that doesn't always work out, because look at the pandemic. Many people have been affected because they thought it would never happen. So I would keep up to date with this, but I would also look more holistically. Which countries are going to maybe start taxing expats? Which companies are going to be taxed, say a digital tax? Is the global minimum tax, if it fails, is it going to be brought in maybe in another way? Like, are more countries like maybe the UK, France, Germany, are they going to bring in their own minimum taxes? So I would keep up to date with this, especially if you're in a jurisdiction whereby you're not paying much tax at the moment. That could even be Ireland. Who it won't affect, of course, are those companies who are already in a jurisdiction where the corporation tax is above 15%. As a final thought, what I would do is I would play it safe by having companies in different areas. So for example, if you're a non-resident of the UK, regardless whether you're a UK expat or indeed a non-British person, you can legally open up a company on Companies House within a few minutes often. And the UK charges about 19% corporation tax, and that's going to go up. And there's nothing wrong with having stagnant companies all around the world, or it doesn't have to be all around the world, but just 2 or 3 stagnant companies with bank accounts, even if you don't use them. There's nothing wrong with that, because what I've learned over the years is this: it's better to always have 2 or 3 bank accounts as a business owner, 2 or 3 companies, than have one company business account or one jurisdiction. It's always better to basically hope for the best but plan for the worst. How can I help you? In 2 ways. First of all, are you an expat, a high net wealth individual, or just somebody who lives in a part of the world where it's difficult to get access to quality investment solutions? In which case, go onto my website on infuriated.com and find out more. If you don't fit into any of those categories, then in which case there's a range of free material on my website, on this YouTube channel, and indeed on my Quora, where I get over 200 or have received over 231 million views in the last few years. And finally, if you want to actually read my thoughts in more detail, go onto Amazon and find my book on there.